Right. Apologies if you can't see me. It's dark in here. It was sun up when I decided to actually get the laptop out and start recording. Suddenly it's sundown and it's very cold and dark in here. So I might seem a bit misty. Anyway, right. I wasn't going to actually make a review. Make? I wasn't going to do a review of The Witches, the 2020 version, but something really grabbed me when I watched it last week on BBC iPlayer. It's still on at the moment. So basically, how do I explain this? It was horrific. It was bad. It was shocking. I mean, to be fair, when I first learned that they were making a rip-off of the 1990 classic, I was like, no, my God, no, no. You know, when they should just leave it there, just leave it there, and they don't, and they bring it back and they recycle it, and it's just shit, basically. So, well, yeah, that was my reaction. It was one of the The Witches, the 1990 version, was one of the very first films a school friend lent me on tape. I remember I borrowed it off her up the street, and it it was just spectacular. I mean, for back in the day, the sort of puppetry and the special effects, the everything about it was just fantastic. The coven of seemingly normal women who would fit into everyday scenarios and places, going about doing their things. You know, that whole thing of them removing their wigs, taking their shoes off, and just becoming these horrible, like just grotesque beings. It was fantastic. Angelica Houston was sublime, I have to say. And she everything about it really roped me in. I absolutely adore The Witches 1990. I think it was Jim Henson Productions, wasn't it? So yeah, brilliant movie. This one, however, now, so right, I don't want to sound contradicting at all here, but The Witches 2020, it's appalling. It's absolutely shocking. But something about it really sort of, I don't know if I adore this or if it just affected me, but there's a bit where, well, the whole film is based on Charlie and how he loses his parents and goes to stay with his grandma, who's played brilliantly, I have to say, by Octavia Spencer. She spends like a good part of the first half of the film just bopping around and just being stupid, trying to cheer him up. God, and it's that scene that really got me. So, okay, right. I'll do this bit first. So basically, hats off to Josier Bruno, who plays little Charlie. He made me feel like this movie was about bereavement. There's something about The Witches 2020. I would say, right, basically, if you know a child, or if a younger member of the family has lost someone close to them, I would sit them down in front of The Witches. I'm no therapist, obviously, but this might be something to hand that child to watch to help them get over it. You see, the scene where Charlie goes and stays with his grandma, it's God, it's just. Have you ever seen a moment in a film where it? I swear I've spoken about this in other reviews, but a moment that just it's gut wrenching and it just really pulls at your heartstrings. This bit, right? So the scene opens after his parents have died, and Charlie is just sat on the sofa at his grandma's house, just sort of. He's like, he's just staring into space, and he's just like his shoulders are sort of like going up and down, like he's breathing heavy, and he's really hurting. He's like in pain, and it's like basically when this scene like shifted to this, it was just like bang. I was like, shit, this is like really powerful. And yeah, so he sat on the sofa, hands by his side, just sort of like just looking miserable. I can only liken it to, even though it's completely different, to the Muriel's Wedding. I mentioned that as well in a previous review because I love how Toni Collette portrays Muriel with the whole uh, just the eyes and the sad facial expressions. It's just so realistic, so brilliantly acted. It's perfect. And you know, part of the fact that I wasn't won over by this film at all, it was this moment that really struck a chord. I don't know if it's because I've like lost a parent, and it reminded me of like when I lost him. I don't know, but it's this whole scenario of a child, like when it's a younger person who they haven't grown yet, they haven't developed, um, and when it's a case of them being hurt, I just find that absolutely just gut wrenching. I hate it. So Octavia Spencer, who who plays the grandma, she comes in and she's sort of uh, prancing about, and she puts a song of the times on, and she's trying desperately to snap him out of it, but it's not working. And um it, then yeah, so this bit, sorry, I'm God, oh um so right, she tries to snap him out and he's not. The scene shifts again, so they're in the kitchen in the next scene, and um she's what's it he's still just staring into space, and the kid is hurt, and he's just glazed over. And Octavia's character, grandma, she turns around and she sort of says something that along the lines of the the good Lord Jesus, or whatever, God has plans for us. Uh, he takes some people quicker than others, or something. Some people's time's up before they know it, and he's got plan. The good Lord has plans for some people quicker than others, or something. And it was fucking hell. It just really packed a punch for me. Oh my lord! I honestly, I don't know why. Well, personal experience, I don't know, but it's the boy is like he's in such pain, and then he goes and sits at the table and he's trying to eat, and he can't eat. It's the whole thing. Grief. He's grief stricken, and as much as she's trying to snap him out of it, she's like incredibly honest by saying, some people just taken before others. That's how life is. The shit hits the fan, get on with it. And this just it beats the living shit out of the scene in the 1990 movie, dare I say it, because again, I loved it so much more than this one. But it beats the shit out of that scene where grandma's like, she's sort of rocking with a blanket round her, I think, isn't she? Played brilliantly by May Zetterling, I think her name is. And yeah, and Jason Fisher. Bit of a weird setup because she's like, "Oh, come here, my darling, come here, my darling," and he's like, "Oh, grandma, oh, is that blanket big enough?" So he's a bit. Is he like Luke? So Jason Fisher, who plays Luke in the 1991, is he Texan? Because he's a bit like, "Hey, grandma," and she's like, "Oh, come and cuddle up with me." It's a real mix. It's a proper accent fruit salad. But yeah, coming back to this one, it's an absolute winner for me. So, although The Witches 2020 was, I didn't like it. This really fucking stuck with me, and it's just that whole thing of, um, you know, this remake. It felt like an unnecessary attempt at summing up the first film, um, but there's something strangely meaningful and really touching about it. So yeah, so Charlie is basically, he's rendered practically speechless by grief. You know, the family member tries to snap him out of it. Then he goes on to like face his demons. Now another bit, so this sort of threads together perfectly, because he's experiencing such loss and he's left in the dark. He's completely, he feels like he's just on his own. But then when they go on holiday and meet the Grand High Witch, him and Grandma, it, and the way Anne Hathaway plays it, she's fucking monstrous, as she should be. I mean, unfortunately, you know, as I said, Anne Hathaway is just Anne Hathaway in movies. It doesn't matter if she's wearing a long, billowing, gorgeous gown, or, you know, in a wig, a bit of an accent. She's just Anne Hathaway to me. You know, she's like the Jason Statham of Hollywood, female of Hollywood, and yeah. So Anne Hathaway is just Anne Hathaway, but in this, she really does. She fits the role perfectly, and she does like make a really good. She makes a great show of it. So she's yeah. So it feels like the shit's already hit the fan with Charlie, but then she going on, she is like the shit behind the shit that's already hit the fan. So he's like having to grapple with his demons. Just side note, the makeup and visuals were actually quite good. Oh my god, did I enjoy this movie or not? I hate the fact that they did this film, but these are good bits. So it's the mouths for me. When Anne Hathaway, the Grand High Witch, and her coven enter the hotel, they're stood in front of Mr. Stringer, the manager, and they're all sort of, they just sort of cock their heads slightly. Less is more here. It's fantastically performed. Like, so they just sort of very slightly move their heads like alien creatures, and it's the scars. So they have these kind of Joker style. I mean, well, less lipstick on their face, but it, sort of scars where, I mean, it's basically the doorway for their chops to come through. So yeah, it's very sinister. They've got these little marks, and comes in handy obviously later on when the Grand High Witch starts smiling, and that fucking jaw, it's like she's like a shark. It's brilliant, that bit. So yeah, they come in, and then yeah, it all kicks off. So right, okay, so I had to get that out. I honestly, you know, this film, I'm basically mortified that they thought they could regurgitate The Witches, one of my favorite films as a kid. But it really got me, Jesus. Right, so I'm just having a look at it. Bear with me a sec. There was no, yeah. So it's basically, yeah, the 2020 version is, it's, I mean, from the second I pressed play, you know, I was sat on the sofa like, yeah, that happened back in the 90s. Oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, that's that character and that character. I mean, it was like a recap, even though they changed the names of some of the characters. Because I mean, Luke from the original is now Charlie, and it's like, yeah, I mean, why? Why? In addition, the other negative here would be that it's over before you know it, literally. So, you know, it was, in terms of production effort, there's nothing. It's like a cartoon. It ran in the most like basic, most speediest fashion I could have seen something. So it, yeah, like I say, it was like animated. It was like a cartoon. You know, when a child in a series is like sort of zapped into a creature, bang, they run for help. Bang, they find someone. Bang, that person does this, that person does that. Bang, 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 bang. They go and hide. Someone helps fight the enemy. The enemy dies. The person comes back. gets turned back into human. It was just like bang, 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 recycling of the original. So there really isn't a hell of a lot of substance here at all. It's like a low calorie pantomime in half the time, basically. It did really surprise me, to be fair. The kids, because when the kids, there's three of them. There's like there's a Texan girl, Bruno Jenkins, and Charlie. So they get turned into mice, but it's just a quick like, oh my god, right, we need to go and get the potion, slip it to the Grand High Witch, turn her into a mouse, and that is it. So there's nothing here. I like the incredible thing is it's actually longer than the original film. So I don't know how the fuck that works. Like Time Lord science is like longer on the inside. Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, right. I'm gonna finish this here. That's long enough. But God, that fucking scene. It reminds me of years ago when I watched Benji the Hunted. I think it was called, like, the dog. It's on Disney Plus, actually. I might have to give it a go when I'm very, very bored, because it's basically just a dog in a forest. But I remember watching that on telly as a child, and I remember crying because the the dog, poor little bugger, he was always wet. It was always raining for some reason, unless he was in the Amazon. But yeah, it was like he was always wet, and his face was always droopy, like big wide eyes, and again, that's the whole thing. Toni Collette was as Muriel. It just gets me when someone pulls off a performance so powerful that it's gut wrenching and just renders me like really emotional. Then I'm completely won over. And like I say, that's exactly what this kid did in this film. Josiah Bruno. He just, it was just weird. It was just so sad the way he's just sitting on the sofa, like just parental loss. Like, what the fuck do I do? Like, who's gonna snap me out of this? Like, yeah, I'm hurt, and I've lost my, what am I gonna do? Oh God. And it was just like, and it's just Octavia's character, she's just like looking around the corner. She's completely helped. She doesn't know what she can advise or do to actually to pull his shit together. But yeah, that bit in the kitchen where she's like, the Lord has other plans for some people. It's like, fucking hell. Right. That's it. I just wanted to catalogue this one, basically. To sum it up, God, so the emotion and the acting from everyone in The Witches 2020 is it's impeccable. It really is. The delivery and how they actually portray characters who have lost people, and then monstrous characters who are like demons that the people have to face. It's 10 out of 10. Absolutely spectacular. But I hated this film. so I'm honestly, I love this because I'm in real sort of contradictory turmoil mode. And it's happened with a few films in the past where performances they just nail it. But the film was terrible. It just, and then you wish sort of like, that they could grab a few of the actors, pluck them out and stick them in something good. I think the main thing to sum up with is it was pointless. Like, why did they feel the need to remake The Witches in like 1930s Alabama? It's like, I think was it 30? I don't know, I can't remember the era, but just why? Quick side note again, a memory from the original. The women were fantastic. The British actresses who are part of the Grand High Witch's coven, I remember actually writing to a few of them, and I got some signed photographs, so I had them on the walls. The one with the woman who comes along when Luke's sitting in the treehouse, and she's like, "Look," or something. She's like, "Oh yeah, a big bar of chocolate." She's so fucking creepy. But I wrote to her, and she was like, "Dear Ricky, thanks so much for your lovely words," whatever. And a few others. Jane Horrocks as well. I can't believe she was in it. It was like, and that's such a transition, isn't it? The Jane Horrocks character in The Witches to like Bubble in Absolutely Fabulous, for example. It's mad. Anyway, right. Ending here. Just wanted to basically, get this out. This film, I would. I'm not one to obviously. I'm not giving about. I'm in no way qualified to advise or give any information whatsoever. But if I knew someone who had lost a parent and had recently who was experiencing bereavement, I would sit them down in front of this. It acts as a sort of like almost. I mean, it doesn't really sanitize the situation, but it acts as like an emotional disinfectant. It won't help you sort of maybe come to terms or get over it, but it might just sort of soften the blow a little bit. I would honestly recommend this to people who are struggling. Like I say, the performances, especially in Grandma's house, God, yeah, excellent, just excellent. But no, they did not need to remake The Witches. Absolutely not. Right, that's it. Before I start crying, that's it.